Welcome to the recipe experience. Today, we are making sweet dinner rolls to go with tonight's dinner. This recipe is out of the McCall's cookbook, and it can be found on page 108. For those of you who are new to this channel, we record recipes that we find in either old cookbooks or sometimes we do trending recipes as well, and we record our first time cooking these dishes and give our honest opinion at the end. So here we go. The recipe says to warm the milk until bubbles form. So I'm going to pop it into the microwave for about 5 to 10 second intervals and stir in between each interval until it feels warm. You don't want it hot, just warm. This took about 40 seconds. Now we just test the milk one last time to make sure that it's not too hot and pour it into this bowl. To that, we add sugar and salt. Stir it up to dissolve the sugar and the salt a bit. Now we add the butter, and we're going to cut it up into pieces and whisk it around a bit to allow the warm milk to begin to melt the butter. I did pop this bowl into the microwave for about 10 seconds because the butter just was not melting fast enough for me. So note to self, melt the butter first next time. To this bowl, we're going to add warm water and yeast and stir it pretty well to combine. 110 to 115 degrees is a good temperature for your warm water. This is optimal for your yeast to bloom. While that's sitting, you're going to beat 2 eggs if you haven't already. Now into this bowl, because the yeast needs something to eat, we're going to add our milk mixture and stir that up just a bit. We're going to stir in our beaten eggs now. Here is why temperature matters too. You don't want to scramble your eggs. So that nice warm 105 to 110 degrees will allow the eggs to incorporate without being cooked. We're also going to add in 2 cups out of the 4.5 cups of flour that the recipe calls for. And using this dough hook, we're going to mix this up. Make sure that you get all of the flour well incorporated. This took about 1.5 minutes. Now we're going to add in the rest of the flour until we get a stiff dough. Here is where the problem began. So now's a perfect time to stop and thank you once again for visiting this channel where I take old cookbook recipes and make them for the first time with you, showing you if they are worth the effort. So hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more of the recipe experience. Now, to be clear, I have made other dough recipes before, so I know what a stiff dough should look like, and this isn't it. But I persevere. Since I refuse to let this recipe beat me or waste my good flour and other ingredients, I just started adding small amounts of flour in increments on my journey to a stiff dough. It was a long journey. Now this recipe says to beat until the dough is stiff and cleans the side of the bowl. Turn into a greased bowl, brush with melted butter, and let sit for 2 hours up to 3 days in the fridge. We don't have that kind of time. So we certainly will not be waiting 3 days for this dough to do its thing because we need this for dinner tonight. So I just kept adding flour, trying to find this stiff dough consistency. At this point, we're in about 6 cups. I need to take a break. Grab a bowl, grease it well with butter or oil, and set that to the side. At this point, I'm at my wit's end. So I dump the flour out onto a well-floured surface and begin to use the bench scraper to continue to incorporate the flour into the dough until I got to that stiff dough consistency. What I will say is this produces a very soft dough. Some recipes that I've tried in the past, the dough has been dry almost, not very forgiving, not soft to the touch at all. But this dough, very soft to the touch. Now, typically, I would need dough until the stickiness goes away, but I had to call it good at some time. So at one point, I just stopped measuring the flour and just kept dumping because it was getting ridiculous. But finally, we had success. And now we're just going to plop this into a greased bowl, spray the top with oil, or if you have some, what I used was avocado oil, and just drizzle it on the top. Cover and let it sit until it doubles in size. Now look at that. Our dough is beautiful and doubled in size. You want to grease your baking dish and set that aside if you have not already done so. Also, you want to preheat your oven to 350, but more about that later. Punch down the dough and turn it out onto your surface with well-greased hands. Again, I just poured some avocado all in my hand and got to work. You want to pull off chunks of dough into your dough balls and place them touching into your baking dish. And here's our baking dish ready to go into the oven. Yes, the last 3 dough balls look a little questionable, but it doesn't matter how they look. We're going to eat them first. No one will ever know. We let these sit for 15 minutes. We are going to pop these babies in a 350-degree oven until they are golden brown. That took 20 minutes. As soon as you remove them from the oven, you want to put some butter on top until they're glistening, honey. Our sweet dinner rolls are done and they look beautiful. Y'all, I gotta let you know, these were absolutely delicious. They were so good. We devoured them. We are a family of 3. We should not have eaten 18 rolls. 18 rolls in, I want to say, 3 days. That's so embarrassing. But they were really good. They were really, really good. They were melt in your mouth pillowy, which is really surprising after all that daggone flour we had to add. Here's some close-ups just so you can see how the butter just melted into the pillowiness of these dinner rolls. They were so good. So this is a cookbook recipe to try. 2 thumbs up all the way. But absolutely, if you have, like I said, the time, the flour, and the forearm strength, give these a try. Until next time, I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the kitchen for the next recipe experience.